So you don't have like a type.
I would say I have a type when it comes to who I let ruin my fucking life emotionally. But not when it comes to who I fuck.
I feel like that's way more important information to have, though, for yourself.
Probably.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Dogecoin to the moon? Ready to buy the dip? Start investing in cryptocurrency today with Coinbase. And you can get $10 worth of Bitcoin for free after signing up at manwhorepod.com/crypto. Come on, how much longer is this fiat thing gonna last? The Handy is leading a sex toy revolution for the dick havers. So you're going to want to get this one wrapped around your cock with free shipping when you use promo code Billy20 at thehandy.com. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to the angels, the demons, and that ghost who always seems to be fucking Kesha. This is Billy Presida, and you are listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Hey, welcome to the show. This week on the pod, I have got on Jamie LeClaire, aka Angel Amour. They are a sex worker, sex writer, sex educator. Very much looking forward to sharing our conversation in a little bit. You'll also be hearing a little bit from actor Juego Catalan. He is one of the stars of the Spanish language hilarious sex positive show El Juego de las Llaves, available on Pantaya. So I met my girlfriend's brother over the weekend, and no big deal, but I nailed it. Knocked it out of the park. Granted, my girl's ex definitely set the bar quite low for me, but I happily tripped right over it into her brother's accepting embrace. The one thing I was nervous about, she asked me to pick up some good weed and roll us a joint just in case, we all wanted to smoke up at the end of the night. And, look, I'm not like brand new to weed anymore. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sort of newbie. But I did only just learn how to roll a joint during this pandemic. No big deal. So on Saturday afternoon, I was just sitting at my coffee table, rolling what I perceived to be the most consequential joint of our relationship thus far. I went through 3 different rolling papers until I felt confident enough to really seal that up and be ready to present it. And we didn't even need to smoke the joint. So all that stress for nothing. But it sounds like I did get a full-throated, dare I say deep-throated approval from the bro. Also last week, I watched some episodes of the Spanish language show El Juego de las Llaves. For those of you who didn't take intermediate Spanish 2 at NYU, I will translate. It means like the game of keys, a key game, key parties, swinging. It's a show about swinging. It's a show about alternative sexualities. It's a show about non-monogamy, and it's hilarious. I normally don't enjoy subtitles. Okay, I don't usually like to mix my reading with my viewing pleasures, but this totally worth it. And I sat down for a quick interview with one of the co-stars of the show, Juego Catalan. He plays a man named Leo who is in a polyamorous relationship with 2 smoking hot women to whom he is a kinky submissive. He's also an angry artist dude of questionable income. Gosh, does that sound like anyone you know? Juego is also incredibly kind because although I may have just flexed my intermediate Spanish 2 muscle there, during the entire interview I kept calling it El Juego de las Llaves, which is not the name of the show, a very different word, and he was incredibly kind to not correct me. The show is available on a streaming service called Pantaya, which specializes in Spanish language programming. And I believe they do have a 7-day free trial if you want to check out the show in full. And if you live not in the United States, I believe it's available on Amazon Prime. But let's go have a little quickie with Juego Catalan. Which of the characters do you feel like you identify with the most?
Well, definitely Leo. We have a thing in common, a very clear thing in common, that I get naked to feed my family. In the last episode of the show, my character goes to the stripper club, and he wins a contest, and he wins he earns money to feed his family.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, his dick's out. I didn't. I was like, this is one of those shows. I was like, the Mexican TV very liberal. This is. This is like in Italy where they advertise for orange juice with breasts out. Different cultures. I love it. So did anything like funny happen on set?
I almost broke my back during the rehearsals. It was really painful because
Rehearsals
I was
for the stripping scene.
Rehearsals because Leo is gonna show off all. he's gonna show the skin. Yeah, I was doing some movements, some really cool moves there. It was really painful. But now I'm more flexible. My back is more like more flexible now than it was before. I think that two of my vertebrae were stick together.
Well, I think the lesson we learned is if you're ever going to start stripping, maybe do a couple weeks of yoga first.
Absolutely.
What was your sex education like?
Really bad.
They teach you anything, or was it kind of like just like don't get someone pregnant, good luck?
That was it.
Is it interesting you to play a character that is doing such a different relationship style than you've ever had?
Yes, of course. Maybe I could have this kind of relationship someday. The thing that I found that was the most important in my own thoughts was that you can do whatever you want if you are honest to the other people all the time. If you are looking for freedom, you shouldn't lie to anyone. Your own freedom. You shouldn't be cheating on someone because there's no need.
Who do you think has better communication skills, you or Leo?
I think Leo showing me the path.
Yeah. My communication is better because of the show. Maybe not because of Leo. Leo's sort of he's so stubborn. Angry. He's so angry, stubborn. Remember, I've only seen these 3 episodes, so I don't know the backstory. I'm just like, this guy, for a guy who has 2 beautiful girlfriends, he's so upset.
He's upset with the system.
But you're saying he's got really good communication styles to be in these dual relationships. So is there something specific that you've learned from playing him where you were like, I can take this thing here and I can apply it into my dating life?
Tell the truth, always.
What was it like the first scene you did with full frontal male nudity?
Yeah, it's really bad when it's cold. To tell the truth, it's like, oh, come on. I know.
Can we get a heater on set? What's a sexy risk you think you might want to take in your life?
I would like to just travel and have sex everywhere,
Have you ever had sex outdoors?
Not really.
It's more of a binary. What do you mean not really? Was it a patio?
No. I guess I need to start doing that. I mean, I just want to go to more nude beaches or more to make love in the roof of Paris with a scenic view,
Hugo, thank you so much for chatting with us. And where can people go to follow you and keep track of your work, sir?
Instagram, it's at Hugo Catalan. And I'm always posting my works there, my films, my plays, news from the shows.
A hot show. It's a funny show. I actually enjoyed it, and I really want to watch more. I want to figure out who Sergio is because he keeps getting talked about, but he's not in those first 3 episodes. So I'm like, I gotta go watch season 1. Yeah, and go ahead and say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye to everybody. Please don't skip the show. El Juego de las Llaves, the key game in pantalla for the U.S. territory.
Again, the show is called El Juego de las Llaves and is available in the United States on Pantaya. I highly recommend checking out the 7-day free trial and binging the whole show because it's so fucking funny. Kills me. Before we get to my conversation with Jamie LeClaire, let's do a quick fan whore appreciation moment, okay? I want to give a shout out to one of my fan whores on Patreon, Laura Christopher. It was so fun hanging out with you at ManWhoreCon in the sauna. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for having a good time. And thanks for supporting the show. And folks, Patreon is the best way you can financially support me, Billy Procida, and the Man Whore Podcast, which is also just me, Billy Procida. It's just me. It's a one-man team here. Over there, you can get access to behind-the-scenes content, bonus episodes. You can vote on episode title polls. You can connect with your fellow fan whores in our secret communities like the Peep Show, and oh so much more. And not for nothing, you can get the satisfaction of knowing you're keeping a roof over Billy's head and condoms on his cock. So you can become a member today and support the show you love at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now for this week's guest, Jamie LeClaire, aka Angel Amore. We've been following each other on the internets for a few years now. I've been a big fan of their sex education work, and they've listened to the podcast, and we've been following each other for quite some time. And we thought it would be really fun and hot to do the podcast and then shoot some sexy content together. Let y'all get a peek of us fooling around. And we ended up not getting to shoot the porn on that particular day. Angel did have to last minute cancel on that part of our get together. And I think in the sex and dating world, that last minute cancellation would sting a little more. So I'm recognizing that a lot of y'all seem to want to get a chance to see the Man Whore Podcast guy getting up to some man whore antics, right? That's what I'm starting to notice. And so I'm starting to try to shoot more partnered content. Previously the partner content I've been doing has been with people I actually fuck in real life, or someone who I connect with on Reddit to hook up with. And then it turns out that we both happen to have OnlyFans pages, something like that. But now I'm starting to reach out to people who we're mutually follow each other on Twitter. And in wanting to do that, in reaching out, in asking people, hey, you want to shoot content? I'm facing some no's. I'm getting some rejections. And those rejections are so easy to take because there's no emotional stakes. It's not always to do with me. Okay, it feels more like I didn't get booked for a comedy show than getting turned down by a woman. And it's what if we always took those no's with such grace, right? What if we didn't take it so personally when someone didn't want to fuck us? Is it kind of personal that they don't want to fuck you specifically? Maybe the timing's not right for them. Maybe their situation's bad, or also maybe they don't want to fuck you, which is also okay. And what if you didn't just get so butthurt over it? Wow. And I thought a little bit about the times I have not taken rejections very well, sometimes to an even embarrassing extent. And it's why'd I get so mad? Person didn't want to fuck me. Person didn't want to go on a date with me. Person didn't want to hook up with me anymore. I've got a great hand job machine to help get me off in a very realistic fashion if I was truly hard up for an orgasm. Anyways, that was on my mind a little bit. I hope you all enjoy my conversation with Jamie LeClaire. I know I had a great fucking time hanging out with them. We do start off with some trauma stuff and talk a bit about eating disorders, shitty relationships, but then we get into the sexier stuff about shooting OnlyFans content and all the fun that can be had over there. And be sure you're following my OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/callmebilly, because stay tuned. We do plan to get together and make some fun porn very soon. Now let's go have a chit chat with the gorgeous Angel Amore. The Man Whore Podcast is brought to you by The Handy, the hand job machine from our dear friends over in Norway. Oh my gosh, folks, I've been raving about The Handy off and on for the past year because this thing is nuts. This is the most realistic hand job, blow job machine I have ever used. And trust me, doing this podcast for over 400 episodes, I've used a few blowjob simulators, and this is the most realistic thing I have had wrapped around my cock that did not have a beating heart. And those Norwegians are some smart fucking people because they realized, oh, this isn't just a sex toy. This can be a community. And, fans of the Man Whore podcast know we love some sex positive community building, right? But in this case, they have a Reddit r/the handy where people can gather to talk about their uses and experiences with the handy. And they also have a Discord server. Oh my. I'll have a link in the show notes to the Discord server, but one of the channels in that Discord server is it matches up people who have handies with people who want to give virtual handies, where you can give someone your access code and a stranger from somewhere else in the world will jerk you off from afar. Technology is so cool. And you can get your very own handy and join in on all the fun at thehandy.com. That's TheHandy.com. Use promo code Billy20 to get free expedited shipping. When you go to thehandy.com, it's going to say, hey, here's a fun little, you just showed up to our landing page promo, get free shipping. Yeah, I know they're going to offer you free shipping. But folks, when you use my code, BILLY20, you're going to get free expedited shipping because you don't want to have to wait too long to get the handy wrapped around your cock or the cock of someone you love. So again, go to thehandy.com, use promo code Billy20 for expedited shipping. And then go join that Discord server and go find some stranger to give you a virtual hand job. In my conversation with Angel Amore, we're talking about labels, agender, aromantic, non-binary. There are so many labels out there in this world. Everything's a spectrum. And you know what? I want to introduce a new label to you. Crypto curious. Yeah, I know you've been thinking about it. And maybe you're not very comfortable talking to your friends about it yet. You don't want to be out about being into cryptocurrency just yet. You don't even know how to buy it yet, but you're reading up on Polkadot, Cardano, Solano, Salami. The names of these things are ridiculous. Dogecoin to the moon. Ethereum. I thought that was a really bad Matt Damon movie. But yes, your favorite man whore with a heart of gold is invested in the cryptos. And right now is a great time to buy the dip. And Coinbase's app is an easy to use exchange that not only helps you buy and sell and trade cryptocurrencies, but it also educates you on crypto. They've got articles explaining every different type of coin. Each coin's page explains how that coin works, what type of blockchain it does. And if you don't know what blockchain is, hey, they got an article for that too. And Coinbase is running an insane deal right now. You can get $10 in Bitcoin for free. They're just going to give it to you after you complete $100 worth of trades on Coinbase, but only if you sign up at manwhorepod.com/crypto. Again, qualify for $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up at manwhorepod.com/crypto. Let's go to the moon. Now let's get to the show.
That's not usually the case. I just need to wait till my Adderall kicks in.
Oh, wait, that Adderall, maybe a Dom personality, and you're just like, no. But yeah, if you keep it a little close, I'm turning up your gain.
Okay. So it's this glass sex toys.
All your sex toys. Was this what you were going to wear?
Oh, no. That's planning a fairy look. And a couple videos for like Halloween.
Sick. Yeah. I'm sorry, you were saying before about Clubhouse dying out.
Oh, well, I think the community of like sex workers that was there for a little while on Clubhouse that I found like super rewarding and helpful and resourceful, that kind of dissipated, I would say. A couple like May or so I just kind of hopped off.
Yeah.
Deleted the app because it was also very distracting in some ways too. You could spend a lot of time on there. But I had better luck in some of those like dating rooms and stuff.
You were in those a lot.
But those
I get notifications.
Those brought me subs. So yeah.
Oh, that was so you were in there as a play to get subs.
It was fun to get attention from people, but also, yeah, it definitely did bring like followers on Clubhouse, and then a lot of those followers turned into subscribers, and yeah.
There really is something that was kind of mind blowing to me at first when I saw the rooms that maybe like you or Marcella and folks were starting up. It was like, wait, they're just talking out in the open with their voices about being sex workers. And I thought that was really cool in a way that just following sex workers on Twitter doesn't even do, because now there's a literal voice attached to a job that I think a lot of people just think of in concept.
Definitely. I think there's definitely been a couple of times where people from like the audience we allowed to come up, even though normally we would only allow like sex workers to come up and speak. But there were a couple of times where we'd let like civilians come up and talk. And that was like some of the stuff that they would say. They would talk about how it was fascinating to them to be able to like hear our conversations and hear the business side of things. And I was on Twitter Spaces just last night, which is, Twitter's version of Clubhouse basically. And there's also a lot of rooms that are sex worker ran rooms. And there was Teddy Pendergast or something, I think was his name. And he like came up to speak. He's like, I've been listening to, I was so worried for like, I was really worried in the first, I was bracing myself. And then it's like, I just got to say, I've been listening to y'all for the last like week or so. I am just so goddamn impressed with y'all, how much like business knowledge y'all have, and like how like entrepreneurial your mindsets are, and how like you're all hustling. And he was like, and talking about how he would completely have been doing this if he was younger. And I really think it like humanized us in a way that a lot of other media around sex workers doesn't, because it's literally us coming from like our voices, and they're stumbling upon people who are more the average sex worker, rather than the two extremes of sex workers that you see, the like super successful high rolling like escort or
streetwalker, like those are the two.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so to speak. I think that's what's turning the needle. I think with the OnlyFans news that came out a month or two ago, and that whole kerfuffle, what I saw, though, like it sucked so hard, the public reaction seemed so different. This time I was seeing people in comment threads on Facebook, on like a BuzzFeed comment thread, and they're going like, no, just let them sell their nudes. Like, or like, oh, no, this is bullshit, that the thing. And I'm like, whoa, are these like normal civilian folks just sticking up? And I feel like that's something that made this whole news cycle of it different.
Yeah, I did notice that it seemed like the general public was taking it more seriously. And I'm just not sure if that's just because I think the whole industry took it more seriously than some of the other scares, because I definitely felt that. I don't know if you kind of felt that, because there were a couple of scares I think that we experienced through like the Clubhouse.
But no one knows.
era.
No one knows it's happening because it's not hidden.
Yeah. I think some of those were pretty public, and would have reached like the mainstream. But yeah, I think it was because we also made it such a big deal, or I think it also was a bigger scare than some of the other scares, or a more clear scare than some of the other ones. So yeah, I think that might have contributed to it. But yeah, it's definitely exciting to see that.
Yeah, and I think in large part that's because of people being on Twitter and not just posting their nudes, but like also posting opinions. And I think people are starting to see sex workers' opinions from them a little more and more and more and more each time it's hitting the news cycle. I think like writers are starting to realize they should include them more. And I think that it's making this whole humanization that people like didn't even realize that they're like, oh my God, they know business. Like fucking they know business. But like this is the first time you're hearing them speak about the business part of it.
Yeah.
It's the first time you're hearing them speak without trying to sell you something, And
I think people are moving, I'm hoping, are moving a little bit more past the sex work is work, and just doing a little bit more work than that when it comes to supporting us. Because I think like obviously, yes, like that should be the bare minimum that we are allowed to have our labor like seen as valid, just as valid as somebody else's. And so we need you to actually like do some work and make your voice heard when it comes to supporting sex workers. And rather than just like sharing a meme that says sex work is work, we need people to like actually find out about the Congress people in their areas, find out about all of the different legislation that's going on when it comes to sex work, listen to like on the ground sex workers rather than just flash pieces. That's what drives me crazy too. Yeah.
And this is a good time to say I'm sitting here right now with Jamie LeClaire, aka Angel Amore, sex worker, sex writer, sex educator, sex noun. Pick sex profession, probably might fit.
Pretty much.
But Jamie, what was your introduction into doing sex work?
So my first introduction was like definitely when I was a lot younger, before I even really got started with sex education, I would say. I think I was probably 20, 21 or so. And it kind of started with selling my panties.
So that's the gateway drug to
cheesy
sex work.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like this is so many people's stories, but like my partner like heard that it was a thing and like encouraged me to do it. And it was like, well, I'll help you take the pictures and everything. So that made it pretty easy for me. Yeah. And I've always been very comfortable with my sexuality. And I think by that time I kind of had been toying with the idea of sex therapy and sex education, because I had seen that as a minor option.
What were you studying in college?
So I was just doing like general ed pretty much. And I was starting at like a different community college, Moore Park College, that was closer to the person that I was seeing at that time. And they had like a weird little like small human sexuality kind of program there. So I took all the classes that I could pretty much in there. But yeah, that kind of happened around the time that I started sex work. But I only did that, I would say, for maybe a year on and off. It's not super lucrative if you're not like giving it your all. And I also don't think that out of like all the versions of sex work that selling your panties online is the most lucrative, I wouldn't say. I'm
Jamie,
sure
what does giving it your all when selling your panties look like?
I don't know.
It's just like, no, I wear 5 panties at a time. Really just let everything seep through. I make sure that I'm going to economize the time of wearing them.
I'm pretty much just waddling around all of the time.
Are they wearing a diaper or panties? What's going on here?
I have to fulfill these orders. I'm sorry.
So you did the selling panties thing, a little bit here and there for a year or so.
And just kind of like fell off and then was focusing more on school, and then started back up because I'd been doing sex education for a while and the pandemic hit, and sex writing and like it's all freelance. Sex education and the sex writing that I was doing is all freelance, and freelance writing kind of took a hit when the pandemic came. So I think about not halfway, who knows what the actual scope of the pandemic is time wise. I would say about 6 months into the pandemic, I started OnlyFans basically.
So from the selling panties to the OnlyFans, you weren't doing sex work in between?
No, I didn't do pretty much any sex work. Yeah.
Okay. And you were focused on sex education and sex writing. So how'd that fill the gap?
Lots of school, lots of trauma, lots of just spinning out of control.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about that?
We can get into it. I don't mind.
Yeah. What went down? What threw you off your panty selling game?
Well, that relationship, although it encouraged me in my career to grow in my career as a panty seller, was extremely abusive in a lot of different ways. One of those being something that kind of stuck with me and is so basically my ex-boyfriend taught me how to have an eating disorder, essentially. And that sticks with you. That's like a trauma that is with me forever because it's kind of similar to addiction. You're never really going to beat it. You can be recovered, but you're always in recovery. Yeah. So I'm like stuck with that kind of for the rest of my life because, I knew what eating disorders were, obviously. I knew what bulimia was, obviously, but my ex-partner would have these behaviors and then encourage me.
Your partner had an eating disorder?
So my boyfriend
taught it like a tip?
Basically, developed bulimia, essentially, and then through their bulimia and their hatred of their own body, and then inherently them constantly making comments about my body and encouraging me oh, you should do this with me, then we can both be in shape and all this sick shit. Yeah, all this sick shit.
What?
And so eventually I was already in that relationship for a good year and a half. I was also not in a very stable state when I entered that relationship anyway. So yeah, and I stayed in that relationship for like a good 4 years. So I think we had the eating disorder like together, and then it became this weird thing that we would bond over too. So I didn't see it for a while as something that was abusive. So yeah, that was really, really difficult.
Some people have jogging, and y'all had.
Yeah, my parents had cycling. Like, great.
You're like, we could have done CrossFit or something. I don't know. Like, just.
I really, really want a T-shirt that says like I was in a fucking abusive relationship for 4 years, and all I got was this lousy eating disorder.
Print it. There's some shirts saying anything these
I know,
days.
right?
You can find 100 people buy that. I might even buy it. Jeez.
I'm sure it's a more common story than I've heard. You know,
I feel like normally when I hear the story from people who developed an eating disorder, especially if it came out of like an abusive relationship, it would usually be like more subtle. It would usually be things like
something they develop kind of on their own too, not like
in response to criticism, as opposed to more like, well, I'm doing this terrible thing to my body. How about you come do this terrible thing to your body with me?
Yep.
And then we'll both destroy ourselves together.
Which is even, it's like in some way, like even more insidious, because it seems like I was able to explain away the abuse, like there wasn't abuse there because it was just something like we're doing it. Yeah. Exactly. And it's mostly coming from his insecurities, or that's what I was telling myself. But obviously it was like his generalized fat phobia, which is obviously going to extend to me.
Yeah.
So
how'd you snap out of it and get out of there?
So it was also abusive in like multiple other ways. So kind of coming to the realization of that kind of took a little while after, but I think like the initial breaking up was because it was becoming increasingly abusive and in more like verbal and physical ways, and also he was just a horribly bad person. Turns out like a horrible sexist, surprise, racist, like a troll, like a literal like internet troll, awful person. Yeah. And I had started a program basically where I would help survivors of sexual assault. They would like call into a hotline. I would connect them to services and things like that. But through that, you had to take 60 hours of training, and it really broke down like what abuse looks like and all the insidious ways that abuse can manifest. And so I think that really showed me like, oh, this relationship is abusive in a lot of different weird subtle ways, and some not so subtle ways. And so I think that's what gave me the wherewithal and the strength to end that relationship. The year after the breakup, I think catapulted the eating disorder.
Oh, so it got worse after the relationship.
Way worse after, because it was able to turn into more of a publicly acceptable eating disorder. I still had the bulimia, but I was turning into like this like fit person. Back then I identified as a woman. So like hashtag fit girl, that kind of thing. Always hitting the gym. And so we kind of can mask the disordered part of it for a while. Because it just looks
like you're in shape.
Yeah. And maybe not so much now because we're having a lot of way different conversations around exercise and fitness and what health means and everything. But back then we weren't really, and all those hashtags were taking over Instagram and everything. So I definitely fell hard into that and started over exercising, developed anorexia. So I pretty much ran the gambit of eating disorders. And that year was really rough because I had gotten out of the relationship and was like honestly looking good, conventionally attractive and conventionally fit. I don't know. It was a weird year because I was like single and getting all this attention from guys, and why would I stop anything that I'm doing because it's going great right now? So,
and are you cognizant that there is a problem with the way you're treating your body and eating?
The bulimia, I definitely know, and I knew that from the beginning. But not the other things.
In high school was when, like sophomore year, I came back for preseason football, and this chick, Glenn Sharp, like I'm walking through the parking lot. She goes like, "Billy, is that?" Because we're all just back from summer break for preseason. She goes like, "Billy, is that you? Wow, you got fat." And I was like, "Whoa, what?" oh no, cognizance of my body now, like, self-awareness. And so I rushed into just like not eating. I would starve myself. I would go on these like fasts. I would put it in my daily calendar. I'd say like 2, 3, 4 day fasts, breakfast, liquid only, liquids, whatever things. And I was dropping weight. And I would go into the trainer's office every day after practice for months, 5 days a week, and go in the trainer's office, stepping on a scale. Should have been a red flag for people. I would tell people very explicitly, oh no, I'm doing like a 3-day fast. I was shouting for help in basically every possible way. And everyone was just like, oh no, good for Billy. Cause like, I did have weight to lose, like in the theory of like, I had gained weight. I was heavier. So everyone just thought like, oh, he's been healthy.
Exactly.
He's just losing weight. It's fine. It took someone finding my live journal where I was like in one of those like fucked up pro Anna, pro Mia groups. Yeah, I found that rabbit hole. And like someone who had already graduated found it by accident, which now I'm like, how'd you find that, Annie? What were you doing over there? But like sent it to a teacher. And that's the only way it ever ended. I would have kept doing that. I dropped 45 pounds in 3 months.
Yeah.
Not muscle, just not eating.
The same thing though, like nobody paid attention. Nobody thought it was an issue until I got to a certain weight. Mm-hmm. And even though the behaviors were the same and the behaviors were just as deadly, like hurling over the toilet, like losing all of these electrolytes. I'm getting lightheaded. I'm like literally almost passing out. Like I'm literally trying to kill myself and I don't necessarily realize it. And people don't realize what's going on until you're physically like rail thin.
And yet from the ashes of this, you emerge as Angel Amore, taking pictures of this body that clearly there's a complicated relationship with. And yet you're like, I'm going to get in front of a camera. I'm going to take my clothes off in front of it. I'm going to do a lot of really raunchy things on it. I highly recommend. I've seen quite a chunk, everybody. And so, but what's that experience? Because I know I was terrified. What was that experience for you like?
What is that experience? It's it's you're doing it too. It's a daily kind of.
I would argue more people think you're hot than think I'm hot though. Just nothing.
I don't know about that, but like it never goes away. No matter how many times you're on camera, like I still have, I'm so self-conscious and I will, sorry, I need to gather my thoughts. So I really understand like what, I'm sorry. I'm so nervous.
Take a deep breath. Sorry. You want to take a breath together?
Yeah.
Let's take a breath.
Yeah, my Adderall is kicking in now, so I think that's what's happening.
That's okay.
I just need to like
take a sip of water.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So, navigating that has been difficult with 1, the eating disorder, and then 2, the gender stuff. Mm-hmm. So the 2 of those combined, it's not necessarily great for my eating disorder. You do what you got to do. I do enjoy it. And I think in a lot of ways it has helped it and remedied it. And in some ways, it can worsen it, or it can,
God forbid you get the wrong still, or the video's the wrong angle, the lighting hits the wrong way, and you go like,
my day is shot, like my whole day. And if I plan to like film myself that day, I'm probably not going to film.
Yeah. Or it's like you see the outcome of the filming and it wasn't,
I've thrown out so many videos because I'm so but I'm sure my followers would not, and I know that. I'm saying it right now. I know my followers could care less the way my butt looks, my butt dimple like looks in that one video, but I'm not releasing it.
Yeah. What's a favorite part of your body?
My favorite part
what's your favorite part of your body?
Probably my eyes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I wish you would say the same thing. But
I mean, I've been conditioned from a young age.
Yeah, but that's probably mine too.
I was grown up and people would say, you have beautiful eyes.
Exactly.
And I'd be like, you want to get ice cream? Like, you ask a girl out and she'd be like, oh no, we still think you're fat and gross. But we want you to know you have a positive attribute. We think you should know you have one. So it would take a while till I learned like people liked hairy chests and thick thighs. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But the eyes was...
the eyes is like, this is the easiest one. But I don't know. There's other things that, who knows if I didn't change it when I was younger, if I would feel the same about or feel differently about, like my nose. Sure. So I used to have a very Greek nose. when I was younger.
Yeah.
Until like 17 after relentless bullying back in the time where like anti-bullying was not a fucking thing.
Sure.
Like teachers would be like LOLK, like
Good luck.
literally turn the cheek. And I would get like crumpled up pieces of paper thrown on my head and the teacher would just like look and as if nothing would happen. Yeah, the bullying was awful. It was from girls and boys alike. And I didn't realize that I was cared about girls' opinions in other ways than just like, oh, be my friend. But yeah, like it was devastating getting bullied for my looks by boys and things like that. And my mom saw that. My mom had a nose job, was gifted a nose job by her mom when she was younger.
It's the family tradition.
The Greek family tradition, yeah.
Any of those bullies subscribers now?
Any of those bullies? I think at some point, probably one or two.
Nice. I feel like that's a nice, like a win, so to speak.
I guess.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time, it's like that Weezer song that makes me feel icky. It's like The Girl Got Hot, which like I was totally like, ooh, yeah, that's like so me when I like got all fit and stuff. But I've had to very much reverse
I was always
my
hot.
thinking about that. It's like, you know what, got like conventionally attractive and we shouldn't be like virtuing this like certain way of looking as being like what's attractive.
Would you really, you practice in your content, you have such a variety of people you shoot content with that even I'm like, wow, there's like a real range. Like I can't point that a lot of people I've seen you in scenes with and be like, oh, those two look the same. Like you shoot with different genders, different body types. I mean, is that like come second nature to you? Is that something you purposely think I'm going to do this?
I don't know if it is something that I'm super intentional about. But I think, I don't know if like years ago, if I entered this, I would have approached it the same way. Like knowing what I know now and doing all of the education that I've done and the self-work that I've done around fat phobia and diet culture and all of these things and gender and everything. I think that like where I am now as a person like that, it definitely comes very naturally because knowing now that people can find a range of bodies attractive and we don't have to subscribe to that like, oh, we have to like be similar in order to do, you know, to like share each other, like share for share, which is like something that you do in sex work where I'll share a creator on my profile and they share me on theirs. And so we're both gaining essentially. And historically people would be like, oh, well, you want to share for share with someone who looks similar and someone who's like the same body type, the same hair color, the same whatever it is, same gender or whatever. And I think we're realizing now that a lot of people have a very large range of what they can find attractive. And so I want to be able to cater to that. And I also find a large range of people and bodies attractive and I want to fuck hot people and get paid for it. So yeah.
So you don't have like a type.
I would say I have a type when it comes to who I let ruin my fucking life emotionally. But not when it comes to who I fuck.
I feel like that's way more important information to have though for yourself.
Probably.
Right? So what kind of content do you like to shoot? What's some of your favorite stuff to do?
I do like to collab, definitely. I like doing kind of like switchy content. So I like content like within the content that shows off my switchiness. So like within a scene, I really like, I don't know, like playfulness and being able to kind of like switch between those two roles, like within a scene, rather than like, oh, this scene is like a dom scene. This scene is a sub scene. I like when like two switches like fuck each other and it's like just very playful. There's lots of energy. It's like, you know, everyone's kind of like trying to vie for like power a little bit. I think that's a
like
lot of fun.
similarly trying to vie for not having the power.
Yeah.
Like you're both fighting to have it and both fighting to be like, take me.
Yeah, it's hot. But like there's usually, it's like a dance, you know, it's kind of like a little tango. It's like there's give and there's take and like someone knows when to kind of know when to give and when to take. And I've had a couple of scenes where I feel like that has been the energy and the vibe and it's been a lot of fun.
What was your first partnered scene like? And how'd you feel leading up to it and doing it?
I think my first one was Black Sin. Yeah. Okay. Because my
Is that
other ones I don't want to
the
talk about.
Black person who doms?
Yes.
Right.
They're an incredible dom, an incredible pro dom, an educator. Yeah. It was like a sensual BDSM bondage scene. There was like no penetration, no actual like sex, of any kind, no like fluid exchange, I don't think. But it was still well, like my fluids were a part of it, but their fluids were not a part of it. But yeah, it was just like so cool to me that something that was like not PIV, not kind of like what you think in terms of classic porn could be like so hot and then like so well received by people. Yeah.
So how'd you feel leading up to it? You're like your first piece of
just
content.
pretty much excited. I wasn't like nervous at all. I felt pretty safe around that person. Yeah.
Does doing porn feel like, did it feel easy for you to start doing? Did it feel kind of simple?
Not necessarily. It doesn't like always come naturally because like I'm sure you know, you're not always feeling like sexy.
Right.
You're not always, especially when it becomes your job. Like a lot of the reason I like kind of pivoted to sex work was because I was doing sex education. I was finding that like I wasn't connected to my sexuality that much anymore. And sex work gave me like the opportunity to kind of connect back to my sexuality. And now I've been doing it for like a year and a lot of it has become performative now. And so it's more of a complicated relationship. I'm not like super jazzed like 100% of the time, like as much as I was when I like just started, you know, like doe-eyed. So, but
the camera's on, you're set up, got the makeup on. Sometimes the thing has to get shot. Yeah. I was trying to think like, cause so we were going to do a scene that we're not going to be doing today, but we were going to do like this femdom scene and it sounded like there was going to be some anal action on me. And I was just like, but I was trying to put myself in the headspace of like, well, what if like in the middle, I start feeling like it's less hot, but still tolerable and such. And I was like, oh, what's that experience going to be like? I don't think I've had sex like that, or interactions like that. So there's something interesting there of like when you're not turned on, but you still got to work.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've definitely had those experiences before, especially like longer days when you're on like your third scene and it's an anal scene and you're the one kind of doing more of the work. Like even though the other person is, you know, putting in effort, but when it comes to anal, you're doing most of the work. You're putting in a lot of work just to receive, just to bottom. I don't know if enough people realize how much work bottoming is and prepping for bottoming is. So yeah, I don't always want to wash my ass out.
Well, that was also why I was cool doing that, proposing that as in like my list of ideas to you, because I was like, you're not only like you do that in your spare time, but like being a sex educator, I was like, well, Jamie knows the things. So it's like if I have a question or if I'm like, is that how it goes? I'll be like, well, if Jamie's doing it, it must be how it goes because Jamie knows what they're doing and I'm an idiot. So there was definitely a sense of like safety and comfort because I felt like I'd be in good hands, so to speak. Yeah,
definitely. In more ways than one.
Well, have good hands in me, I guess. Thought that one through. And when you were doing a lot of the freelance writing about sex, you know, it's something that I ask a lot of people who talk about sex, even if they're not necessarily doing sex for work, that people on the internet like want your sexual energy. I don't know if you ever experienced that where because you talked about sex, people think they can just come and talk to you about sex whenever they want to, regardless of if you want to talk about their sex life.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was different. It's different now that I'm doing sex work.
Because now you can like charge. Right?
Yeah, because I'm charging for it. And of course, like it's just par for the course getting, you know, DMs and stuff where people are, you know, sending you dick pics or telling you what they want to do. But like,
I'm talking about like friends, like thinking they can just dump their sex stuff to you without even.
And then the types of DMs that I would get. The types of DMs that I would get for my sex ed account, people who are like dumping entire life stories of their trauma with like a couple questions at the end, and like help me parse through my entire trauma and give me resources and all these things. Can you do a post on this very specific thing specific to me because I asked you to, and like you don't get paid for any of this stuff. So that did get exhausting. But it was also, it felt good to be the one that people wanted that information from. It felt good to be like wanted in that way, and to have my content be what people were going to when it comes to finding what they need for sex ed.
Would you find that people from, say, like college, just from like your earlier years, find through Instagram, whatever, just see that this was the work that you were doing? Did you ever get people showing up who you weren't tight with, you weren't friends with them back then, you had a class together, but then they come to you with this like heavy sex or dating question because they feel like, oh, it's Jamie, I guess?
I've kind of made it very apparent that I don't want to talk to or associate or fuck with any of the people from my high school. For the most part, there's maybe a couple of queer people that I'm still friends with, and like one person that I'm like super, super close with. They're queer too. Shout out Matt.
Shout out Matt.
Well, like one of my best friends from. So yeah, I don't really associate. I don't have many of them on my Facebook or whatever. So that hasn't happened so much. It is more just like random people who are like, asking like, can you make a post about this specifically? And then also not even bothering to go through my posts and like realizing that, yes, I have made 6 different posts about asexuality covering exactly what you just asked.
How's it feel to like see like this big block of text? It's got people's traumas, all the stuff. At the end, there's questions, and you also know, I really don't want to fuck with this right now.
It makes me feel guilty, which I shouldn't have to feel, which sucks. Yeah. I mean, that's really, because like I shouldn't have to harbor all of those traumas and those conversations that people want to get out there. And I shouldn't have to be the person that all these people come to for specific direct resources. Like that should be something that someone gets paid for. But also it's hard to ignore that. Yeah. And it eats away at me inside. So,
oh, no. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And I think it's almost like I feel like it's a symptom that people don't feel like they can talk to anyone about their sex or dating lives, that you have to hit up. I had some dude hit me up who like kind of used to bully me in high school. But he's like, hey, like me and my girl think about having a threesome with like another guy. Cause like, I don't know if I'm bi, maybe I'm not, maybe I don't know. And like, I don't know, any help. And then I'm just like, you're gonna apologize for calling me a faggot a lot first? Can we start there? And then maybe we could talk about how you're the one who maybe wants some dicks in his mouth. And then like, we'll work through there. Maybe it would be nice. But yeah,
maybe if we had better sex ed, we wouldn't have these people coming to us years later.
If schools would just hire Jamie to come teach the kids.
I don't want to go teach kids. No, that's not the kind of sex that I want to do.
You want to do adult
I want to do more like adult, like entrepreneurial stuff. Like, cause like we're not getting good sex ed in schools.
Like, keep the kids away from me. Fuck 'em.
We're not getting good sex ed in schools anytime soon. So we're gonna need sex ed for adults for many years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was interesting. I did not know about you, and unless your website's outdated, but you identify as aromantic, or
that
did
is a little outdated, maybe.
Interesting. What was can you tell us a little bit more about that? What it was and maybe where the state of it is now?
So for a while, once I like realized that there was a term for it and that it was a possible thing, I started identifying as aromantic because I hadn't really ever experienced what people have described as like romantic love or falling in love with somebody. And I'm almost 30 years old. So I was like, like maybe there's a pretty good chance that it's not just that I haven't found a person and maybe it's just that because I've dated a lot of people. I've had experiences with a lot of people. I interact with a lot of hot, attractive, cool people. So like, why wouldn't I? So the logical explanation was like, maybe I'm aromantic. And there's room, just like when it comes to any other like romanticism or sexuality or gender or whatever it is, it's a spectrum. And I knew that. So I would always kind of just be like, oh, I'm gray, aromantic, but I would just say aromantic because it's easier.
Was that because you never felt romantically about people, or just the romantic relationship hadn't happened?
I had never felt romantically about somebody, and then thus a romantic relationship never happened because I really had never felt like that about anybody. But I've been in relationships, but I really never felt that way. There was definitely like the lust aspect in those, and that's never very absent for me. That's kind of always there, the lust. But yeah, I had never experienced anything kind of beyond that. So I started identifying as aromantic, gray aromantic, kind of just giving myself room like, oh, okay, like maybe that's not the case.
Which, as a one-liner definition, do you want to define aromantic for folks who are still like a little confused?
So I would say that...
It shouldn't be. It's really easy. I felt like if we know what asexual is, I feel like we can figure out aromantic, but...
Pretty much. Yeah, it's just either not experiencing or experiencing like low levels or infrequent levels of romantic attraction, not experiencing it at all. Or yeah.
Okay. And then what's the state of it now? Because you seem a little unsure.
Long story short, nothing has happened with this person. Okay. But I kind of basically did develop romantic feelings for a person, for a friend, or somebody that I started like casually having sex with and then developed a friendship with and then actually fell in love with, which is not my MO. Which was, it was interesting. I thankfully had a therapist through part of it and was able to, even though I didn't I kind of like realized it quote unquote too late. Mm-hmm. But yeah, long story short, I experienced what I guess people would say is romantic love. Give me a little more of the long story. What's the feeling? What's the sudden moment? Like, is this the thing? I think it was more like a gradual thing, but it was hard for me to like admit to myself basically. And I kind of didn't admit it to myself till it was like too late to say anything basically. Mm-hmm. And now the whole situation is like a whole mess.
Oh no.
It's fine. In the long run, I'm thankful that it happened. It sucks, but I'm thankful that I know that that's something that I can experience and that it's like not completely off the table for me. And even if it wasn't, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And like people have completely fulfilling lives without romantic love. But I'm just like glad I know that, that's something that I can experience. And maybe that's something that I want in the future.
Did you ever tell this person that you love them like that?
No, but I don't think that I need to. I don't think that person is, it turns out that person's probably not someone that I need to be in a relationship with because not everyone that you fall in love with is necessarily a super great person or a match for you.
Yeah. Oh,
so
is the friendship still intact at least, or?
No.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, they were kind of a piece of shit.
I see. Gotcha. Well, but at least now you know that's a new part about yourself to figure out in the 30s. But I still kind of identify as gray aromantic because like the gray arrow kind of definition is more of like the people who like experience it like in very infrequently or in lower levels. And so I would say that that's me. It's like very, very infrequent. I know like people like will say, I fall in love so quickly. Things I'm the opposite of that. Whatever the opposite of that is me. Like it is very rare and few and far between. What would you say to someone who thinks aromantic is fear of commitment or something like that?
I mean, I also have fear of commitment, so.
Oh, you're like, I swear they're not connected.
But like the thing is like that's labels are. That's one of the things that I like learned is like labels can be useful, but like also don't attach like everything. You don't need to attach everything to labels, and you're a person and you know, your emotions and things like your sexuality, your gender, your romanticism, that can all change over time. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to leave it open. We'll see.
Okay. You know, the concept of labels is something that's like growing and like the mainstream now. People are becoming more aware of these different labels that are out there, these options, whether it's they're learning new terms that they might have to say in certain contexts, or they're finding something that they go, ooh, that might be me. What was it like to discover the Aromantic label? What is the importance of labels for you in your life?
So, I mean, labels are super important. There's certain labels that are extremely important to me. It was also just as important to like know that you can shed labels. And so when I needed to shed the Aromantic label, I'm glad that I do think I did it a little too, I wish that I would have done it a little sooner, even though the whole situation didn't like pan out as great. I wish that I would have done it soon enough to garner up the courage to like say something, to like have acted on it.
What does shedding the label look like?
Like not using it on on apps anymore.
So just deleting it from stuff.
Yeah, and so kind of allowing that to come more into my life, because if you put like Aromantic, even if either someone's just going to ignore it completely because they don't understand it, or they'll look it up, or they kind of from context clues garner what it means, and they have an idea of what it's going to be like to date me. So obviously I took that off the profile, because through that I kind of realized like, oh, maybe I would be open to kind of I'm non-monogamous, but like a partnership of some sorts, like a what I would call an anchor partnership. Is what I'm kind of looking for. Yeah.
You're also non-binary. Do you want to explain because I've heard different answers to this in my continuing trying to understand what that means, which may be that it doesn't mean any one thing. But what does non-binary mean for you?
So I think the label non-binary is kind of like a label used to just describe genders that don't fall underneath the binary of man or woman. And then there's a whole different bunch of like labels within that people kind of use to describe themselves, or choose not to use a label whatsoever. But for me, I'm non-binary because I'm agender. And that is, I call myself agender because I don't really feel like I want to or need to or should be associated with like any gender. I like the whole concept of gender to me is, I know it's man-made, and it's just been made in a way to control and manipulate people. Well, the thing is like non-binary is just like, it's not its own thing. It's just like, we're not that. It's an
absence of this.
Yeah,
system.
it's exactly. It's an absence of like the binary. So it's not its own thing. It's just like you said, it's an absence of the binary. And then like I was saying, there's a lot of different ways to feel that and manifest that. But that's the thing. It's the absence of the binary. It's not necessarily the absence of gender for a lot of people, because gender can absolutely play a part in people's like non-binary gender. Like there's a lot of people who embody and want to play with gender, or what we've come to understand as gender, and the different things associated with the quote binary genders. So it's not an absence of gender. I would say it's an absence of like the binary.
Does it get frustrating having to like kind of educate a lot of subs and people who want to go look at your porn because you present typically pretty femme, and so do you have to deal with a lot of like thank you but like not a girl? I
don't deal with the educating. I just don't fucking bother, because I like so many of these people are honestly not even intelligent enough to grasp it, nor do most of them want to or care to. Yeah, that's what I do as a sex educator. I have to kind of, I will, as far as not a girl, and then that's kind of as far as I'm going to go.
And if they fight you on it, they're kind of a dick.
Yeah, if they fight me on it, then like I'm not going to continue to engage with them. They can sub to my page and I'll get their money, and they're like a gnat to me. Truthfully, yeah. If I'm not interacting with them, like the subscribers like don't kind of exist unless they're interacting with you. So
what's a good engaged sub? How does a good and engaged sub act with you?
I like subs who message, who like.
And we're saying sub as in a subscriber, not sub necessarily as a submissive,
exactly.
right? Okay.
Or fan. We can call them fans because it's only fans or fan sites, fansly. I would say fans who know that I mean, I'm pretty sure like most people know that like liking our posts, commenting on our posts, engaging with our posts, like literally makes our pages do better in like more ways than one. So like you should know that as a fan and you should do those things. It really helps, especially if you can't tip, which it should be par for the course. Like you're just paying like an entry fee. It's like paying, it's like going to a not an amusement park, like a fair or something. You know, you pay the entrance and then you have to go pay like all these tickets. You have to buy tickets to go see all the other, to go to the other special rides or the special, I don't know, other options, or to go to the petting zoo or whatever it is. You got to pay extra. So I feel like not enough fans know that that's kind of the case.
And if you can't afford it, stand around, you know, I don't know, the bathroom and point people like, you should go check out that thing over there.
Exactly.
I can't afford to
rally
go,
for them.
Rally.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Respond to messages, like messages, like posts, all those different things. That really, really actually does help the algorithms.
What's a good way to interact in DMs with a creator on OnlyFans?
I would say keep it relatively like non-sexting. Like you can talk about like sexual things because that's obviously what we're doing here. But know that we charge for sexting, like by the hour, by the minute, whatever it is. And so that's usually an additional service. And even people who say like free sexting in the DMs, like that's a lot of labor, especially if you're doing sexting that involves clips, video clips and pictures that I just have to be ready at any time to send you video clips and pictures. Like, yeah, it's labor. Like we're getting ready for that. We're making sure that we're ready at any time if we're going to be doing that, if we're going to be doing like live anything. So yeah, I think paying attention to kind of more of the back end, taking more of that into consideration.
Such as?
Like all of the work that we do on the back end and understanding that is so much more of the, and understanding that like, it's not just us taking pictures and uploading it for you and taking pictures and uploading it for you and taking videos and uploading it for you. That's just like 10, 15% of the job. If I want to continue to make money for getting naked and uploading pictures and videos for you, then
you got to show some money.
Exactly.
Flash that paper. I like to tell people who DM me on OnlyFans, I go like, I'm just like, hey, if one of us is getting turned on, I should probably start getting tipped. It's probably a good idea. If you start feeling like wet or hard,
I'd love to chat,
probably a good time to like start throwing some tips in. You know?
Yeah, definitely like chatting, like telling me like how your day was, and like you know even kind of talk to me about like some of your kinks, and like I'll have conversations. A lot of it gets into like my sex ed work and stuff. And people who like find me through my sex ed work tend to message me a lot about that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Ask
nice when
for
I'll get like a DM be like, hey, I love the podcast. I'm a straight guy, not really into the content, but like the podcast. I'm like,
great.
Don't know why you're following me here, but like, thank you. I guess I got there's some pussy on my page somewhere for you, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, no, it's nice when people come and compliment you for being a person outside of the titties.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? Yeah. Question. You can say no. Do you have like an extra maybe like 10-ish minutes, do a little bonus episode for Patreon? I was thinking talking about how to negotiate, like how content creators like negotiate to do a scene with each other or to collab. I don't know, somewhat relevant.
Totally.
Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So Patreon folks, you'll hear that tomorrow. But for now, Jamie, where can people go find you and find all your awesome work? And Jamie's really hot. Jamie's got really hot content. Gave me a free subscription to like take a peek.
Oh yeah, that just like expired too, huh?
Yeah, that felt oddly uncomfortable to say. But hi, you know, weird. Like I've interviewed really big porn stars. I'm like, I didn't know your work before I did a podcast, but I was just like, oh, Jamie's always been.
Well, we'll have to, film some content together, and then you'll get another trial.
Well, Jamie, tell them where they can find you so I can stop blushing and shut my fucking face. Because
you can find my sex ed content on Instagram at Jamie J LeClaire, LeClaire is the last name. And you can find my sex work Instagram, Angel XX Amour. The last name's AMOUR. And then I am on OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/Angel Amour VIP. You can also find all my links, my sex work links, angelamourofficial.com.
And I will have links to all of that in the show notes. They're all links worth clicking. Patreon folks, you'll hear some more tomorrow. But for now, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Just all right. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.
That was great. You look confused at the question. I was like, no, that's exactly what I asked for. You said tell people to have a nice week. That's nice. Again, our bonus episode on negotiating OnlyFans scenes, that's going to come out tomorrow for my $5 and up fan whores on Patreon. Again, you can gain access to that and so much more at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And don't forget to follow my free OnlyFans. Keep your eyes open for that sexy content I will soon be shooting with Angel. I can't wait. Seriously, I've had a crush on them for years. Did I kind of fanboy at the end of all of that? Because I think I fucked up at the ending and I lost my professional cool. But hey, if you were sitting across from them for that long and you also knew that they were like down to blow you on camera, I think you'd also get a little flustered. I think that's fair. But go follow my OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/callmebilly. Slide in the DMs. Come say hi. I like to flirt with all the genders over there. And if you have thoughts about this week's episode, we'd love for you to join the conversation in the champagne room. We have an episode discussion channel dedicated to all Man Whore podcast conversation, but episode discussion threads ain't even the only thing we're doing there. We've got channels about parenting, channels about movies, a channel about politics, and of course, our lovely Sexual Achievement Sunday channel. Introduce yourself today at manwhorepod.com/Discord. Of course, you can always email me your comments, your questions, your criticisms to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Want to hear your question or your comment on the show? You can now call in for at least the next month. Show me you want it. Call in today. Leave a voicemail at 646-580-1351. Again, call in your comments and questions to 646-580-1351 all of October. I'm being heavily distracted by my beautiful girlfriend at the moment, so I am gonna have to log off of here so I can properly entertain her. Anyways, I hope y'all are staying safe, staying sane, getting vaccinated, and as always, staying slutty.